On this project guideline video, we're going to discuss the introduction, purpose, rationale, and history of the problem and literature review sections. If you will note, in APA 6, the word introduction is no longer written. It is the title of your project, and this heading is not bolded. You need to make sure that you have a page number. And then your introduction should be about a paragraph long. You may have 2 paragraphs, but there should be no break in between those paragraphs. There shouldn't be another heading in there. So you could be 1 or 2 paragraphs, but they need to flow just like you would in any other typing. In your introduction, you need to introduce your topic broadly. So for example, if you're doing type 2 diabetic nutritional plans for a school nurse, your introduction should include information on what type 2 diabetes is, some stats on the prevalence of the problem, and in the U.S. Or the state, and any other pertinent information. You may have to go to some website, you may have to get some information from an article, something that you can cite in this paragraph. But again, it needs to be broadly introduced. Then the next section should flow from your introduction, and that's your purpose, rationale, and history of the problem section. And in this section, it's just as it states. You need to say what the purpose and rationale of the project is as stated from your nurse manager. So whatever she has asked or he has asked for you to do, and the reason why, that's what you need to state in this section. For example, you might say the purpose of this project is to develop meal plans for type 2 diabetics identified at Mansfield School. It is imperative that teachers, administrators, and meal planners understand the nutritional needs of children who have this type of diabetes. Also in this section, you need to include the history of the problem. And the history of the problem is as it relates to the organization, school, or unit that you are doing your project at. So it needs to have specific information. For example, Mansfield School has seen an influx of type 2 diabetics in the past year, with several students having episodes of hypoglycemia resulting in them being hospitalized. So that's a significant problem for that school that you've identified. So again, this should have the purpose, rationale, and history of the problem as it specifically relates to the school, the organization, the unit, or the agency where you're doing your project at. Additionally, if you say we're doing a project on, say, falls, you then would take that time to explain the significance of the falls. So you might say there have been an increase in falls on this unit in the past year or 3 years, however long it is that your nurse leader has asked for you to go back and get that information. So I hope that this is clear. The next section is going to be your literature review section, and this is per leader request only. And this means that you should not have a literature review unless your nurse leader has specifically asked you to do a detailed literature review. If you don't have a conversation about this with your leader, or you've asked your leader and they said no, they don't want any articles, they don't want a literature review, or you didn't even have a conversation about it, then you don't need to do a literature review. If you have to do a literature review, your nurse leader would have identified this to you early. It would be on your project plan. Then you would just need to clarify with your nurse leader as to how many articles they'd want. So sometimes it's 4 to 7 articles. In the past, students have had as many as 10 articles. It just depends on what the nurse leader needs the information for. Sometimes nurse leaders need information to change policy, so they ask you to go and gather evidence-based research, or they ask you to look for best practice articles regarding some topic. And so they give you a set amount, or you negotiate the set amount of articles that you're going to need to be able to do that. In this literature review, it is not a critique. You are not to follow whatever information you got from your research class. This literature review doesn't want your opinions and what you think about the research. You just need to be very concise and report the research as you have found it in a professional way, or the way that the newsleader has asked you to, so that you can report that information to your leader. You don't need to make up anything to be in this section. So if your leader has not requested it, does not want it, does not need it, then you don't have to do a literature review. You just omit that section and just continue on to your next section. But then by the same token, if your nurse leader has asked for this, then you need some more concrete information. And if you are not sure about it, then this is a question you need to ask me, ask your leader, or a combination of both, so you can get clarification when you get ready to do a literature review if needed. And I hope this has helped you. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call or ask me. Thanks.